All right, you're good to go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thanks for joining the webinar on studying abroad. In this webinar, I'll be talking a little bit about the opportunities and the reasons why you should consider studying abroad. And then I'll be passing over the presentation to my co-presenters. So I'll be passing it over to Jenica Heim, who's the Education USA advisor, to talk a little bit more about studying in the US. And then I'll be passing on to Heidi from SIUK, who will be talking about studying in the UK and how to do that. So just a little bit introduction on who we are and what we do. Study and Go Abroad fairs has been organizing student expos in cities across Canada for the past 28 years. So usually pre-COVID, we did fairs in like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Calgary in spring and fall fair circuits. When COVID hit, we weren't able to do that, so we've been holding virtual fairs. But we're excited to be going back to real fairs next year, and I encourage you to get out to the fairs. It's a great opportunity to meet directly with universities and colleges from around the world, to connect with them, talk about programs, talk about admission requirements, and talk about scholarships available. So I recommend you put those dates in your calendar, and we can send out reminders as well. We also have a website, studyandgoabroad.com, which is a great resource for students looking for studies abroad. And we also include on there volunteering, internships, and work abroad. Now, just a few reasons why you should consider studying abroad. Now, either for a semester or for a year or for a whole degree program. And there's a lot of good reasons. So we're just picking out a few of the key reasons that you might want to consider. There have been a lot of studies over the years on studying abroad and how it affects you, how it affects your career. And definitely there are benefits for your career. Studying abroad looks great on your resume. As you know, when you leave university, you go out to get a job. It's a really competitive job market out there. And studying abroad can set you apart from your peers. It's something different that you have that employers will be interested in. Many organizations these days work in a global context, either with suppliers or clients or offices abroad. And they're looking for global competencies. They're looking for people who have had that experience of studying with, living with, spending time with people from different cultures and different places. And studies do show that students who studied abroad have an easier time finding a job, and they also get higher salaries. Another advantage of studying abroad is all the new skills that you will learn. Living and studying abroad, you have to be more flexible. You have to be independent. You have to be self-reliant. You're doing a lot of problem solving on a daily basis, whether it's working out the public transit system, adapting to another culture, adapting to a new way of studying. You're learning a lot of skills that are easily transferable to the workplace. And we even have here language acquisition. If you are looking to study in a country where English is not the first language, obviously it's a great opportunity to learn another language. And we do recommend, when you consider studying abroad, that you look at a broad range of countries. And have an open mind. Look at all the options. At the moment, the most popular destinations for Canadians are obviously the USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand, the English-speaking countries, also Caribbean for medical studies. But there are a lot of other different options out there, and many universities now offer programs in English. So you can even study engineering in Japan. You can study hotel management in Switzerland. And you don't need to be fluent in the language or even to speak the language, but it is a good opportunity, obviously, to develop your language skills and to learn a second language. And that also looks great on your resume. It's definitely a plus. Studying abroad is also great for your personal growth and great for networking. You know, one of the things that when you're living in a different country, you'll be meeting local people outside of the university, local students, but you'll also be meeting a lot of international students, and you'll be developing friendships that might be lifelong and are great for networking. You know, all these people that you're getting in contact with, not only will you have people to visit all over the world, which is really cool, but you'll also have a networking system that you can use maybe in your later life when you're developing your career. And studying and immersing yourself in a different culture will also broaden your perspective and change your worldview. You will just seeing a different lifestyle, assimilating a culture. You will become more tolerant, more accepting, and more understanding of different cultures. And it will change the way you see the other culture and the way probably you see your own culture. Now, one of the things on this slide as well is lower tuition, which you might find strange. You're probably expecting international students pay international student fees, which can be considerably more expensive. However, there's lots of other things you can consider. And one of the things is many universities do offer sports scholarships and academic scholarships for international students. Many government bodies offer international scholarships. And also you can use provincial financial aid is often applicable to study abroad options. Another thing to consider that I'm sure Jenica and Heidi will touch on is that in the States, for example, quite a few universities and colleges, especially those based in a state that borders Canada, offer local fees to Canadian students, which makes it considerably cheaper. And in the UK, for example, or in England, courses are shorter. Like a bachelor program will be 3 years instead of 4 years. And master's programs are generally 1 year rather than 2 years. So you're actually saving on 1 whole year of accommodation and tuition. So there's lots of other ways to consider, lots of other things to consider when you're considering the fees and comparing the fees. So on our website, we have a whole section on student stories, and we have a lot of student stories from Canadians from all over Canada who have studied abroad, and we ask for their feedback and we ask for what tips they would give to people who are looking to study abroad. And here are just a few of them. Like, for example, Emma from Ontario. She went to Australia and she realized when she was there studying what she wanted to do with her life and what her passion was. And Megan from Kamloops did a study abroad in Japan and had an absolutely amazing time. And then Tim studied in the US, and the one thing he took away was the lifelong friendships, even to the fact that he met his wife there. And then Hilary, who did a master's in the UK, said that the direct reason that she got her dream job when she came back to Canada was because of her study abroad experience, because it looks great on the resume. So we do encourage you to consider study abroad, consider the options, and give it some thought. Now I will be handing over to, first of all, to Jenica Heim. As I mentioned before, she's the Education USA Advisor in Canada, located at Fulbright, Canada. And then a little bit later, I'll be handing over to Heidi, who works for SIUK, which is a consultancy which helps students to study in the UK.
All right. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining today. I love to see how many viewers we have here on the webinar. It's really great. I am going to share a presentation as well. So wait for that to, okay, great. Looks like that's coming through. So as Katie mentioned, I'm just going to give you an overview of the different options you have when studying abroad in the United States. First and foremost, Education USA is a US Department of State network of more than 400 international student advising centers in more than 170 countries. The network promotes US higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about opportunities to study at accredited post-secondary institutions in the United States. You can learn more about our network at educationusa.state.gov. I'm the Education USA advisor in Canada, and I help students all across the country. You can check out our website at educationusacanada.ca, and you can always send me an email at ottawa@educationusa.org. The cool thing about this organization is it's absolutely free. That's right, free. So if you have any questions about US study, do reach out. Follow us on social media, that we have lots of great posts there, and check out our upcoming events. The one we have coming up next week is Study Ohio. If you go to the website, you can register for that, where you're going to hear from 7 public Ohio universities and their opportunities. So why do Canadians choose to study in the United States? Well, here's just some of the reasons that I've found. Some students are really excited about the reputation of some of the highly selective universities down there in the US. Others, as Katie mentioned, look for competitive athletic opportunities in organizations like the NCAA. There's a lot of study options in the US. There's about 100 universities in Canada. There are more than 4,700 universities in the United States, universities and colleges. So there is a lot of options. Because there's so many options, it means that there's all different kinds of specialized programs and institutions. We'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. Some students, if English is not your first language, studying in the US can be an opportunity to improve your English. And there's also, of course, so many benefits of studying abroad, just like Katie mentioned. And you'll notice my list looks really similar to her list. I would say some of the other things I would point out specific to the United States is that students are often drawn to the US because of the robust campus life that might include a big sports environment. It might include the kind of house life at residential campuses. So smaller colleges, often the students live on campus for 4 years and have kind of like houses, almost similar to like a Harry Potter situation, as well as maybe Greek life or some of the other opportunities at US schools. An advantage of studying in the United States is optional practical training time. So if you do a full degree program, you can stay for up to a year and train in the US in a paid role in your field. And if you're in science, technology, engineering, or math, so STEM fields, you can stay up to 3 years and be paid in your field. I'm going to briefly touch on all the different ways that you could study in the United States. There's so many different entry points, no matter where you're at right now. If you are currently in high school, you can look at doing an undergraduate program. The 2 types of undergraduate degrees are associate's degrees and bachelor's degrees. If you're currently on track to receive, or you have received, a bachelor's degree, the next option is a graduate degree, which would be a master's or a PhD, or any of the number of professional degrees available, like an MBA, MD, JD, etc., etc. If you are looking to improve your English language learning, there's a lot of ways to do that in typically short-term programs. And we'll touch on short-term study abroad programs for students who are currently receiving a bachelor's degree. So let's start with community colleges. Community colleges are 2-year programs, and they are dedicated to creating access to post-secondary education. The great thing about community colleges is that they are lower cost. They are open access, which means anybody who's graduated from high school can enroll. There's no minimum coursework, there's no minimum GPAs, there's no tests you need to take. Simply, if you've graduated, you can go to community college. This is a great option for anyone who maybe didn't have the best grades in high school, but is now really focused on their university experience, this can be a great way to kind of hit a restart button. You don't have to do any upgrading whatsoever in Canada. You can just go to community college and you can do 2 years at a community college, and then you can transfer to a university, finish your last 2 years, and you'll still graduate with a bachelor's degree in 4 years. So this is a really great kind of program. You can see the student that's highlighted here went to a community college in the Los Angeles area, and this year transferred into UCLA, which is a school that is really hard to get into straight off in the undergraduate process, but has a really high transfer admission rate. For bachelor's degrees, they are often called, they can be called universities, but they can sometimes also be called colleges. There's more than 3,000 bachelor degree granting institutions in the United States. And as I mentioned previously, it means there's a lot of options. We have large research institutions as well as smaller liberal arts colleges that are much more focused on undergraduate education. Technical institutions might be really focused on a certain kind of subject matter like technology or art, single gender colleges, religious colleges. And because there's both public and private institutions, there's a large range of sizes and also just locations. You can be in a big city, you could be in a small town anywhere in the United States. So it gives you a lot of options. Go ahead and check out my website, educationusacanada.ca, and you can get started learning a little bit more about how to narrow your search. I'm also here to help with that process because I know a list of thousands of schools can feel a little overwhelming as you get started. As mentioned, if you are on track to receive a bachelor's degree or you've already received one, you can consider your next step, which is a graduate or professional degree. The difference between a graduate degree and a professional degree is that a master's degree takes 2 years, a PhD takes usually more like 5, and these are theoretical degrees. So you spend your time on research, and the goal at the end of your program is to usually create some novel research, whether that's in a thesis or a dissertation. Whereas a professional degree is on track to a specific career. So a Juris Doctorate is the designation you get if you are studying law at a graduate level, or an MBA is the degree you get on track to a professional business degree. So the difference there is everything you're doing, all your coursework is focused on you receiving that specific kind of designation. And then usually there's another test you have to take afterwards. Like for law, it would be the bar exam in the United States. And there's also an equivalent in Canada. And then you can practice in your profession. If you're applying for a graduate degree, in our office, we have, so it's called the Fulbright Canada office. You can go to fulbright.ca and learn more about the Fulbright Scholarship. So that's a scholarship specifically towards graduate research. If you are an English language learner, you can take short-term programs in the US. Education USA actually has a very specific program for students aged 15 to 17. It's called the EdUSA Academy. And usually the goal of an ELL program is to prepare students to then study full-time in the United States and prepare them to take the TOEFL or IELTS English language exam. So if that's something you're considering and you need improvement, then that's a great pathway to do so. If you're already enrolled as a bachelor student, or maybe you're in high school and you're like, you know what, I do want to stay in Canada for my full bachelor's degree, but I want to take advantage of short-term study abroad experiences so that I can broaden my worldview while I get my degree in Canada. This is an amazing thing for you to do. You can study abroad in the United States, and you should always be on the lookout for something called a reciprocal exchange. A reciprocal exchange is when you get to pay what you usually pay for your home fees to study abroad, and those exist all over the world. But specifically in our office, we have something called the Killam Fellowship, which any student can apply for and receive $5,000 to study in the US. If your university is part of our direct exchange program, then all the direct exchange universities, which we have 18 on our list from Canada, and we have we have about 15 or 16 in the US. So if you're part of that direct exchange program, you can go to one of those schools in the US and you would pay your home fees for that. And in the open exchange program, it's just open. Like any university that you go to now, any university you want to go to, you can get that $5,000 award. Just know that you will pay the fees usually at the university that you'll be going to, unless your university has a reciprocal exchange. So some universities have their own reciprocal exchange agreements with US schools. Go to killamfellowships.com and you can learn more about this exchange program. If you want to learn more about studying in the United States, check out the website, check out the social media, and of course, you can always send me a direct message. I did see a couple of questions that came through, so I'm happy to answer them really quickly before I turn it over to the next speaker. As far as admissions deadlines are concerned, in the United States, the regular deadlines are between typically November and January, with January 1st being a very popular deadline for undergraduate studies. Graduate and professional study deadlines are all over the board. So it's really important that you look at the website for any specific program you're interested in and find out about the deadlines. And another question I saw about US, is there a special kind of test you need to take? So usually when you go to school for an undergraduate degree in the United States, it's common to take the SAT or ACT exam. Right now, because of COVID, a lot of schools are not requiring those tests. Because of lack of access. So they're what they're calling test optional. So it's kind of a great time to apply to skip taking those. In the future, you might need to do that. If you're looking at graduate programs, the most common test to take is the GRE, but each professional program usually has their own test. So like for law school, it's the LSAT. For medical school, it's the MCAT. For optometry school, it's the OAT. So you have to look at any specific kind of school to see if you have a special test that you would need to take. I'll go ahead and hand things over to Heidi so that she can speak more about the UK, and then I think we'll have time for questions at the end.
Heidi, we can't hear you. Does your browser have access to your microphone?
Hi all, while Heidi's figuring out the sound and we can get her on, I'll go ahead and answer some of the Q&A questions because there's a lot that have come through. Anna asks, what kind of scholarship can we apply to in the US as an international student? So the most common scholarships you'll receive are from the university that you'll be going to. It's very hard to find a lot of external funding sources. So for example, merit-based scholarships are based on your grades and potentially something like a test score. You could get needs-based scholarships at some school, which are based on your family's financial need. And then lastly, talent scholarships. So if you're an artist or an athlete, there might be some scholarships around that. And then your provincial government might have, if you can apply for your provincial government for aid as well. All right, Heidi?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay! Sorry about that, guys. Technology. I think I have 4 different microphones listed, so I had to kind of work my way through them. All right. Sorry, guys. Is it okay if I jump back in? I'll be quick. Okay, here we go. So now we can see my screen and we're all good with sound. Let me know if any other issues come up. Okay, so sharing my experience of studying in the UK, when I was looking for a master's program after my bachelor's degree here in Canada, or actually during my 4th year, I was looking at the US, I was looking at the UK and all over the world, and I had a really niche subject I was interested in. So when it came to finding programs, it was very challenging for me. So my top choices came down to the US and the UK. Now, you have the option to do short term or you have the option to do full degree. For me, it was a full degree program I was looking for. Typically short term in the UK, you'd be looking for straight through your institution. So the best way to do that is to look for combined programs where they will recognize the international study. So there's the short term out of the way. Long term is what I'm going to talk about for the rest of my presentation. So I chose the UK for a number of reasons. One, I'm an archaeologist, so going to an ancient place, an older country really drew me in as an opportunity. 2, it was an internationally recognized degree that I was looking at. 3, the application process was straightforward. I used a consultancy like the one that I work for now to help me with the process of applying, and they made it super simple. They helped me with looking into programs, so narrowing down my research options, really saved me a lot of time and energy when looking for programs and for funding. And they helped me with the entire process. So that really appealed to me. And then 4, no standardized test. I was looking at the GRE, I was getting all of these books and resources to help me study for it, and it was so daunting and overwhelming. I hadn't done math since high school. I'm like, I can't do this. The GRE is not going to go well. So that immediately took the US off my list, and the UK became my top priority because they do not require a standardized test for the vast majority of programs. There's only a handful of top programs like medicine and some specific schools for law that do require a standardized test. Other than that, it's not required. They just look at you as a holistic applicant. So again, very attractive to me as a student who didn't have a lot of time to put into applications, but knew it was important to focus on those to make sure I was successful. So it also is very inexpensive to apply to the UK. I didn't have to pay anything to apply for the programs that I applied to. The postgraduate degrees were free for applications. It only costs about $45 to apply to 5 undergraduate programs, and that would include law. If you want to be a lawyer and you want to fast track your degree, go to the UK. It only costs $45 to apply, and then you can always have the backup options of going to the UK instead of Canada as well. So we also have shorter term degrees. So I was looking at a master's, of course, and in comparison, the master's programs I saw in North America were 2 years in length, but the UK master's was only 12 months. So that saved me a year of time and a year of tuition that I didn't have to worry about. And then I could focus on applying for my PhD, which was my original degree focus. And it also is beneficial for people who want to become practicing professionals like lawyers, doctors, physiotherapists. You can go through a degree straight from high school and do a fast track degree, or you can go for a graduate entry degree, especially for law and medicine, and it's a shorter program than you would have to take in North America. So you can expedite your studies, which is fantastic, and get you into that profession faster. Okay, so next slide. All right, so why go to the UK versus Canada? The entry is less competitive. So for programs like law, for example, here in Canada, they're looking at a 3.5 minimum GPA with a really good LSAT score, excellent volunteer and work experience. In the UK, you're pretty much guaranteed an offer if you have a 3.0 or 3.1 GPA. So why not? And they don't require the LSAT. So hey, apply for law. Medicine is still quite competitive, but places will take students with about a 3.0 for things like physiotherapy, nursing, so any of the other health sciences degrees. And you have over 100 schools to choose from across the UK. So if your dream has been to study in a place like Scotland, why not? Look at it for a master's or an undergraduate program. One big draw for me was the access to travel, because I've always wanted to travel the world. Being stuck here in Canada, where it takes 2 to 3 hours to get anywhere, especially being from a small town, it was really appealing to be able to go to the UK, hop on the train, and go from my university to Edinburgh in an hour, or hop on a plane and be in Dublin in 45 minutes. So really, really took advantage of that access to travel and did trips all over Europe, the UK, up to northern Scotland, down to the south coast, out to Ireland, and made the most of my travel budget while I was there. So wonderful opportunity to check those things off your bucket list as well. Okay, so entry requirements. I've mentioned that they're more reasonable, but here's kind of the base entry requirements for UK institutions. So if you're looking at an undergraduate degree, you can go straight from high school with about a 70 average minimum. I do recommend being closer to about an 80 to 85% average. That will get you into excellent level institutions, but also mean that you have the academic standing and skills to be able to do well. And that's what we really want to see when you arrive in the UK. And then graduates, if you're looking at especially any of those professional degrees, a 3.0 is about the standard entry, or B+ average, and they will look at, some schools will look at lower, some will require higher than that. So if you want that support, we can certainly help you with it. And work experience is not essential in most cases. So I know it's been a tough year with COVID to get any sort of hands-on experience, but it's not required for the vast majority of programs. Okay, so what does the application process look like? Oh, really quick, you can apply through UCAS, which is the undergraduate application system. So this would be used for all undergraduate degrees, including law. And if that makes confusion for you, then definitely let me know and we can answer that question later on. You can apply to a maximum of 5 schools through UCAS, or as many as you like through direct application for postgraduate study. But I do recommend between 3 and 6 choices for postgrad, because then you have enough to choose from when you get offers, but not too many to actually make an informed decision. You will need a strong personal statement, which is something that I myself as a consultant would be happy to help you with. You need an academic and or professional reference. 1 minimum for undergrad, 2 for postgrad, and then applications are open right now, and we do recommend applying no later than January. The equal consideration deadline is January 26th. So if you want to be considered alongside other international graduates for those places, then definitely apply by January. But applications are open officially on a rolling basis for majority of schools in the UK until June 30th for international students. Okay, so just a couple mentions of my company here. We are an international company. We do have an office based in Toronto, and our newest office is based in Vancouver. We are a consultancy that helps with applications, and we specialize in law and medicine, as well as all other subjects here in Ontario. But law and medicine tend to be our most popular. So if you want to reach out, you can find us online and we would be happy to help you. These are just some of the universities that we've sent students to this past year. So they've enrolled this past September, and we couldn't fit all of the 100 or so on one slide, but these are some of the most popular ones, especially for things like law, which, like I said, tends to be the most popular course for UK, but also other courses like history, archaeology, management, psychology, that's another big one, medicine, all sorts of degrees. Okay, so there's my contact details there. If you want to reach out and you have any questions, I'm happy to help with those. So that's my spiel on the UK. And let's see if there are any questions that came up through that. So shall I pass it over to you, Katie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks very much for coming out, and hopefully now you've got some more food for thought and some information about the US and the UK. Feel free, we're at our booth for the next few hours, so feel free to come by and ask a question, and feel free to contact Jenica or Heidi directly if you have any questions about the US and UK. Thanks very much.